All right, so now that we have these clusters, what we're going to do is just create some curves in order to, be able to snap our joints to it. So I'm going to go to Create. You're going to go to where are you? Curve Tools, CV Curve Tool. Hit the option box for me. And what I want to do is make sure. Let me see. Yeah, it's going to be on cubic by default. Make sure it's on linear. Okay. That just means that when we create it, it creates lines instead of curves, right? So make sure it's on linear, not cubic. That's the only setting you really need to do. So what I'll do is I'll just do the leg one first. It's relatively easy. I'm going to turn off the grid very quick. And what I'm going to do is look to see where it is. If you kind of lose track, you can turn this on and maybe even just make it template so you can see a little bit better. That's helpful. But you're not going to want it on because it'll end up snapping to the model and not to the points. So I'm just going to hold V like venereal, and I'm just going to snap. Hold V, and I'm just going to click. Oh, that works great. Let's try that again. All right, hold V and snap. Click, 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 click. Still holding V and click, and then I'll hit enter. And there's my leg, and that didn't work at all. So let's delete that. All right, maybe I can't have this on at all. Sorry. Thought I could. So let's try that again. Boink, boink. Yeah, it just doesn't like that being on. Okay, there you go. So, yeah, so that's the leg. We're going to make some adjustments to it. This is just for a placeholder to get a default position. I'm just going to, so you hit enter when you're done. I'm going to hit Y, bring it up again. And now I'm just going to move up my hips here. So I'm again going to hold V, click, 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 click for point snap. And then, mind you, this is the clavicle. So don't do that one. I'm doing the one next to it. Okay, see how it's slightly off? There, okay. And then we want to do, so this is the jaw. That's not. Every now and then you got to turn this on just to double check. Like, yep, that's the spine, or that's the neck. This is the whatever. Just do that, okay? So I'm going to hold V like that, and then I'm just going to go to the tip of the head and hold V, and boom. Then I'll just do the jaw while I'm here. I'm going to hit Y and hold V, point, boom, enter. And then we're going to do the arm. So I'll hit Y again, and I'm going to hold V and go boom, 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 just to the wrist here, and V, boom. Okay, so we got to the wrist, enter. And then I'm just going to do each individual finger. I'm going to hold, hit Y again, V, boink, 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 enter, Y, 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 V, boink, 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 boink. Okay, so now you see I have this sort of skeleton thing. Yay! All right. So now what we're going to do is this. I'm going to hit Q to just not have anything selected. Click off. Click and drag over the whole thing. Okay, so I didn't do quite what I was hoping. These are all deformers. So technically, these are all part of the inputs. So if I just delete history, it'll actually get rid of all my clusters. I don't need them anymore now that I have my curves in here. So I'm just going to go to Edit, Delete All by Type, and we'll do History. And then the clusters will go away. We don't need them anymore. They're literally there just so we can get this skeleton thing going. The other thing I want to do, just because it's a little bit easier visually as well as for snapping purposes, I want to turn on the display of these. So you may have already seen this before, but basically I can select this curve, and if I go to the attribute editor, it's Control A, or you can just click on it here, or it's this button up here if you don't have the tab. If we go in here, we can actually adjust some of the settings. So if you go to like the object display, we can go ahead and like do drawing overrides. Drawing overrides, and you can enable overrides, and you can change the colors of these, right? So let's do a color that looks nice. So see how now it's at green? I don't actually want to do that. What I would like to do is where it says component display, I want to do display CVs. Now I can see the points that are actually the CVs at all times, and it just makes it easier to work with. So I'm going to grab this one, and you want component display, and display disp CVs. And I'm just going to do that on all of them. Display CVs, display CVs, display CVs, display CVs. And you kind of need to do this even if you don't care about the look of it, because it's necessary for snapping the joints to it. If you don't have them on there, the joints can't snap to these CVs. You can snap to curve, but then you don't know where you're putting it, and it's not as good. Okay, so that looks acceptable. Yay. So now what we're going to do is let's put this back on. And I can use this as sort of a guide. Let's put this as, what do you call it, reference. And then maybe I can just do ghost. Yeah, so I'm just going to use ghost. Now you can see I can see the joints or the lines, and I can see the model, so I can kind of use both as a guide. All right. So for the most part, I use the all the way that we place the joints so far has been based off the mesh and, you know, to some extent the geometry. But now what I want to do is just sort of fix it a little bit. Okay, so with the leg here, I'll start with the leg. I'm just going to move some of these points a little bit to make them a little bit better. So I'm going to select this, I'm going to right click, go to Control Vertex, and now I can adjust some of the placement here. So for instance, one of the things I need to do is I'm looking at this. Might be easier to, I don't know if this is going to be worse or better, but you can go to shading and do wireframe on shaded. You can also just click on it here. But I like to see the geometry. So I'm going to grab this. I actually want the ball here to be on the ground. And the reason why I want it to be on the ground is that you're gonna rotate off of this. If you keep it up here, when it bends, it'll actually go into the ground and it'll look a little bit weird. So I'm going to grab that one and I'm just going to push it kind of straight down to basically the base of the foot. So, you know, just like almost to the outside. We can go a little bit inside, but like that. And same thing here. I'm just going to go down and go here. I'm not worried that it's not inside the model. You'll see it doesn't actually matter as much. So we're just going to go like that, just so that this part is more or less flat. You should grab them even and just scale them flat to each other like that. Okay, that looks good. If I need to adjust the ankle, I can. That looks all right. You know, I can move it in a little bit like that. Like, okay, that looks acceptable. Now the knee actually, if you were to look at your actual knee, it doesn't actually bend from the center. It actually bends from this side. Okay. You know, when you have your tibia and fibula right here, right, and your femur, if you actually look, it bends from the anterior, not the posterior. So I'm actually going to take this and actually move it forward a little bit. I can't go all the way to where it actually would be because then you'll end up with bad flexion. So we're just going to move it in a little bit. Maybe a little too much, but that way it'll bend more from the front of the knee and less from the outside. And then we'll look at this and I'll be like, you know, maybe I'll just kind of, that's actually not too bad. We'll put it like that. Okay, so we'll call that good. The next thing I need to do is this, and this is kind of a weird thing, but it'll help us later on, is that the leg itself needs to be straight. So what I mean by that is if you were to bend your leg, you'll notice that all of the joints move in the same axes. So they should all line up. So something like this. If I were to take a plane and make it 1 so it's not weird looking. If I were to take a plane, right, and scale this up, just do J for increment. Okay, meaning that my leg, if I had my leg here, come on, scale up a little more, it would all bend. So in this case, it's a little bit rotated this way. Okay, but it would all bend in this plane, meaning that if I were to bend my knee up and then bend my other ones, it would all stay in this plane. What I don't want to happen is that when I bend, my knee bends out this way, right? It's a hinge joint. The knee only bends in one direction. I can't bend it either other way. If I do, then we have bigger problems, okay? But what you'll notice is it depends on the model. Some are worse than other ones. This was not too bad because this is like the default generic guy. But if you look, his knee is actually kind of going inwards a little bit, and then it's coming back out. Which isn't quite what I want. And then his foot is also pointing outwards a little bit. So what I need to do is actually take this and then flatten it in essence. Okay, so first thing I need to do is, if you look, because whenever you make an object, the center point is always on origin. So if I turn on the grid, you'll see what I'm saying. It puts it right on origin. See? So all these have origin. So I'm going to grab this. First thing I'm going to do is just do modify center pivot. So that way it's centered on the object itself. Then what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to hit rotate. I'm going to hold D. And then I'm actually going to put this in the same direction, basically the same plane as my leg. So I'm just going to rotate it like this a little bit because I'm just going to try and find a happy medium. And then I'm also going to go this way. And you can see how this is kind of straight up and down and this is slightly tilted. So I'm going to, again, hold D and I'm going to pivot that way a little bit as well. So now you'll see, maybe a little too much this way. Okay, so now you'll see it's kind of in the same plane as that leg. Right, so like if I were to rotate this, it's in the same general direction. So it's maybe a little too much that way. Hopefully it's subtle. You don't want to do too nuts, but so that's in the same direction. Now once I have that, I'm going to hit R for scale. And I'm just going to go like this. And I'm just going to pull it till it becomes flat. Okay. And now what that means is that this, if I were to here, you'll see how if I tilt it right, see how it's completely straight. That's what I want to have happen, that they're all on the same plane. By scaling it flat like that, keeps them in the same plane. I don't want to go Now, it might be that it throws these off a little bit. What you can do is just, move it around a little bit or undo it and then retry to adjust your plane. But you might be a little bit off on your knee or maybe a little bit off on your hip, but you want to have it straight because otherwise you'll end up with some like weird bending. Okay, so this is the only one that's really got to be like that. Well, actually, so does this, but that should be good. And actually, for that matter, let's grab this one. And there's a decent chance. Really, this is still set up that way? Why is that like that? Where are you? Windows, workspaces, reset to default. Why is this panels? Let me see, layouts, 4 panes, and then panels. Let me see which one I'm missing. Top, right? Orthographic. Not sure what's going on there. Okay. Okay, so it might be that this is not quite straight. So let me look over here. I'm going to go to this view, and I'm just going to hit Shift-I to isolate selected. And if I look, this looks pretty okay, I guess. It's not bad. I think it's all straight, but it might not be. If it's slightly off of the origin line here, then that's a problem. It looks like it's okay, but it's kind of weird that I don't know. But anyway, it's kind of weird that you can't see it here, which tells me that there's probably not. But so this is the other thing. I need the spine to be completely straight in that direction, right? So just with the spine selected, you don't even have to do modify center pivot, actually. In fact, don't, because that way this is already on origin. So I'm just going to hit R for scale, and I'm just going to scale it perpendicular here to make sure that it's absolutely straight. All right, so that should make that straight. And now we have a nice straight line. And then what I'm going to do is move the points, but I'm only going to move them back and forth. I'm not going to move them this way. All right, I can also move them up and down, but so we're going to go here, and then I'm just going to look at this and just make sure it's got a nicer curve to it. So it might be a little bit. Why grab? I don't know what's going on there. Okay. And I'm just going to kind of slightly try to make it a little bit better, just so it's a little bit more smooth. And if anything's got to move, like maybe this neck's a little low, go like that, be like, is that where I want that to be? We'll say like that, and maybe put this more here. I'll make some adjustments, right? But I'm not moving it this direction. Notice that I was either moving it like this, or I was using the red one, which moves it in both those axes, but not the side. See how it doesn't, see how those two both turn yellow, these two, but that one stays red? That means that it's not moving in this axis. Okay. And we will call that good. So now I'm going to go to this arm here. Same thing. And I'm looking at my clavicle, and we'll just like, maybe let's go a little bit there. Shoulder. I'm going to go a little bit higher because, obviously it's not quite the center of mass if you look at this, but you do bend more from the top of it. The elbow is sort of the same thing as the knee there, where you actually bend from the outside. It's not quite as bad as the knee, but so I'm just going to bend that, push that back a little bit. Just make sure you're looking at all views to make sure it looks okay. So like maybe up a little bit there. Okay, so that's fine. And then the wrist is probably okay. Yeah, that's fine. And then the fingers, I'm just going to look at these and see if there's anything, these are probably mostly okay. But you can look at them and be like, oh, they should be different. But I'm going to call that good. Okay. Now I'm going to turn this off for a second. And now we can see we have basically the placement of our model. So this is a good time to save as well. So I'm just going to do, number 2. All right. And save. And what's nice about this method too is that you'll find that if you end up working like in an actual production and stuff, that you're going to use an auto rig solution. You're not going to be manually making a rig like we are now. It's good to know how to manually make a rig, because if there's a problem with the auto rig, or if you have to be the person who makes the rig, the software that's going to make the rig, you obviously need to know how to do it manually so that you can make it do it, programmatically. We know what I mean. What's nice about this system is that this is what I used to use when I was at Fisher Price, because what it does is that most of those, the way they work is that you lay out your model, or you lay out this like this general kind of armature, and then it will rig the model from that. What's good about this is that you could build this out on the model using the system so that you can place it better and it's easier. Then snap the auto rig stuff to it, and then run the auto rig. And then if you're like, oh, that didn't look very good, or I don't like something, you can go back to the previous file and be like, you know what was wrong is that this leg was off, but you have a marker of where you placed it before you did the auto rig. That way, like, you're not just guessing or trying again. You can have an exact, like, this is where it was. And so you can kind of use that as a guide. It's just a good method of working. So anyway, this is how I've been doing it for quite a while now. So yeah, save this here, and then in the next video, we'll go ahead and put the joints in. That'll probably honestly be the easiest part.